We finally have our first official and confirmed cast announcements for the new Harry Potter TV show. From Oscar nominees to stage veterans, the cast reveals a bold direction, one that aims to reimagine the iconic Harry Potter story for a new generation. Now, the folks over at Max have previously stated this would be a faithful adaptation of J.K. Rowling's original 7-book series.
This new series will take shape as a faithful adaptation of all 7 original books and will stand alongside the iconic films to an entirely new generation of Harry Potter fans.
They've even talked about the opportunity to include more scenes, storylines, and even characters that were cut from the films. So with those bold statements and such a big focus on maintaining the authenticity of the original books, needless to say, there were a lot of eyes on the casting announcements. Now, leading into this, many longtime fans have been cautiously optimistic, and now that we have the first wave of casting announcements, many are starting to raise even more concerns. But let's take a look at these casting announcements one by one and see how well they line up with the book version of the character. We'll start with Albus Dumbledore, who will be portrayed by American actor John Lithgow in the new TV series. A veteran of stage and screen, Lithgow brings a resume filled with gravitas and emotional complexity. Best known for his roles in The Crown, Dexter, and the beloved sitcom Third Rock from the Sun, Lithgow's versatility spans Shakespearean tragedy and absurdist comedy. He's won multiple Emmys, Tonys, and Golden Globes, making him one of the most decorated actors in the cast. In the books, Dumbledore is described as tall and thin with silver hair. He has a beard so long it could be tucked into his belt. Of course, he has his iconic half-moon spectacles and eyes that are described as a piercing, brilliant blue with a twinkle of mischief and wisdom. His voice is calm, his presence commanding, and his demeanor often whimsical. Dumbledore is kind, enigmatic, and deeply intelligent. He's known for his love of sweets, cryptic speech, and unfathomable plans. Beneath this eccentric surface, though, lies a man burdened by his past mistakes and the weight of a very great responsibility. In the first 2 Potter films, Dumbledore was portrayed by the late Richard Harris. He gave the character a soft-spoken, grandfatherly air. After Harris's death, the late Michael Gambon took on the role from Prisoner of Azkaban onward. He brought a more energetic and sometimes divisive intensity to the role. Many fans are intrigued by the casting of Lithgow, especially given his history portraying intellectual but morally complex characters. He stands 6 feet 4 inches tall, which means he won't need any camera tricks or special effects to match Dumbledore's tall, commanding presence. Lithgow's age, vocal tone, and range also seem to be a really good match for the literary Dumbledore. Of course, his age could also become problematic, considering the series will film over the next decade, which would put Lithgow close to 90 by the time everything wraps up. Here's to hoping Lithgow and all the actors remain healthy and eager to keep playing their roles throughout the next 10 years. It is worth noting that Lithgow is the lone American actor on the list. This represents a departure from the original films, which focused only on actors from the UK, considering that's where the book series takes place. At the same time, given Lithgow's extensive experience, even in British roles, he should definitely be able to pull off the role of Dumbledore. I've seen him in several things over the years, and my hope is that he can bring a nice balance of Gambon and Richard Harris. Because while I appreciate what each of those brought to the role, neither of them never quite nailed that book version of Dumbledore that I've always had in my head. Now, even as an American, I will also add that I always appreciated that authenticity to actually using UK-based actors in the original movies. So at first, I was a little bit concerned when they started to go outside of that. I will say, we only need to look at Lithgow's history, though, to see that he can absolutely pull off roles for UK-based characters. So I'm certainly less worried about that now the more time has went on and I've thought about this one. 63-year-old British actress Janet McTeer will take on the role of Professor Minerva McGonagall. A 2-time Oscar nominee and Tony Award winner, McTeer is best known for her work in Tumbleweeds, Albert Nobbs, Ozark, and The Honorable Woman. She actually stands just over 6 feet tall and appears to have all the right traits needed for a book-accurate McGonagall. Her performances often blend intensity with tenderness, both key ingredients for portraying the Transfiguration Professor and head of Gryffindor House. The book version of McGonagall is described as a tall, severe-looking woman with black hair usually pulled into a tight bun and square spectacles. Her appearance is stern, and she often wears emerald green robes. McGonagall is disciplined, fiercely loyal, and deeply principled. Though she exudes a strict exterior, her deep care for her students and unwavering bravery, especially in the later books, show her as one of the most quietly heroic characters in the series. And let's be honest, a definite fan favorite. Dame Maggie Smith's portrayal of McGonagall across all 8 films was iconic. Dry, witty, Commanding, she brought grace, steel, and a quiet warmth to the role, setting a gold standard that will be absolutely very difficult to follow. While some fans are always going to be fiercely loyal to Maggie Smith's interpretation, there's no denying that McTeer has very impressive qualifications for the role. British actor Nick Frost will play the beloved Hogwarts gamekeeper Rubeus Hagrid. Known primarily for his comedic work in movies like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, Frost brings a uniquely British charm and physical presence to the role. He's definitely on the shorter side though, standing at around 5 feet 7 inches. Visual effects, camera shots, and maybe even stilts or platform shoes are going to be key here to ensure that he can match Hagrid's towering presence. Of course, in the books, Hagrid is a giant of a man, quite literally. He's described as being almost twice as tall as a normal man, which would put him around 11 to 12 feet tall. He has wild black hair, a tangled beard, and usually wears moleskin overcoats. He has a somewhat shabby, earthy appearance that is very fitting for his love of magical creatures. Warm-hearted, loyal, and sometimes a bit clumsy, Hagrid is deeply emotional and unwaveringly devoted to Dumbledore and the students of Hogwarts. He has a special fondness for misunderstood creatures and often finds himself in trouble for bending rules in the name of kindness. The late Robbie Coltrane brought Hagrid to life in the films with a lovable blend of gruff charm and tenderness. He made the character instantly iconic, earning the affection of fans young and old across all 8 films. Now, all that being said, Nick Frost has been a very popular pick among fan predictions. Even before we got the official announcement, he has long been predicted as someone who would make a very good Hagrid, so it's really no surprise that this one has been met with a very enthusiastic reception. Frost can absolutely nail that warmth and tenderness that makes Hagrid such a beloved character. As long as the effects and makeup are up to par here, he should be an outstanding, book-accurate version of Hagrid. He's already endeared himself to fans even more by sharing a photo of himself with the first book along with a caption that reads, "Thank you for trusting me with such a loyal, gentle, and courageous half-giant like Rubeus Hagrid. Robbie, I promise I won't let you down." We also got confirmation on Professor Quirrell. He'll be played by the 29-year-old Luke Thallon. A rising British stage and screen actor, Thallon is known for his performances in The Inheritance, Patriots, and Hamlet. Quirrell is described as a young and nervous-looking man with a pale face and a persistent stammer in the books. He wears a distinctive purple turban throughout the Philosopher's Stone. He initially presents as timid and skittish, especially around anything related to the dark arts. Of course, it's later revealed that he's actually ambitious and cunning beneath this anxious exterior. His moral weakness allows him to be manipulated and ultimately possessed by the villain of the series, Lord Voldemort. Ian Hart played Quirrell in the first Harry Potter film and delivered a nuanced performance that balanced awkwardness with quiet menace, all culminating with one of the most memorable plot twists in the series. Now, my take on this one is that Thallon certainly looks the part. I will say I'm not as familiar with him as the other actors. He seems to be a bit more of an unknown here. So overall, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. A legendary figure in British comedy, 66-year-old Paul Whitehouse will take on the role of the Hogwarts caretaker Argus Filch. Though he's best known for comedic roles, Whitehouse also brings serious acting chops and an ability to add emotional depth to quirky characters. Now, we should also add he's the only actor so far who actually appeared in the original Harry Potter films.
Who dares challenge Sarkadagan?
Filch, of course, is the grumpy, magicless caretaker of Hogwarts. He's described in the books as a thin, cantankerous man with a hunched back, stringy gray hair, and a permanent scowl on his face. Of course, you can't talk about Filch without talking about his equally unpleasant cat, Mrs. Norris. Both of them delight in catching students who are breaking school rules. Filch is bitter about being a squib in a world full of wizards, and it shows in how he polices the halls. He's strict, nosy, and prone to shouting, but there's also a tragic element to his character. He longs to fit into this magical world that he serves but can never truly be part of. David Bradley portrayed Filch in all 8 films, turning him into an iconic background character. With his fierce glare and dry delivery, Bradley perfectly captured Filch's unpleasant yet oddly endearing energy. With some hair and makeup, I have no doubt that Whitehouse will be able to give us an excellent portrayal of Argus Filch. And last but certainly not least, the casting announcement that has generated by far the most discussion is that of Severus Snape. The rumors turned out to be true. In the new television series, he'll be portrayed by the BAFTA-nominated Paapa Essiedu. The 34-year-old British actor is known for I May Destroy You, The Lazarus Project, and his critically acclaimed Shakespearean stage work. With a commanding presence and a talent for emotionally layered roles, Essiedu has been celebrated for bringing nuance to morally complex characters. There's no doubt he has the experience and talent to match Snape's emotional intensity and deeply conflicted morals. The biggest issue here, of course, is Essiedu's massive departure from Snape's physical description as it's written in the books. Snape is described in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as a thin man with yellowing, sallow skin, a hooked nose, and greasy black hair that frames his face. He has dark, piercing eyes that are cold, empty, and make Harry think of dark tunnels. His thin lips often curl into a smirk or grimace to reveal his yellowing, crooked teeth. His face is described as marble white. And then, of course, he wears those flowing black robes that give him the appearance of an overgrown bat. His cold demeanor and sharp tongue make him an immediate source of tension when Harry arrives at Hogwarts. On the personality side, Snape is cold, sarcastic, and seemingly antagonistic toward Harry and his friends. Beneath this cruel exterior lies one of the most complex character arcs in the series. Snape is a deeply loyal and broken man whose actions are shaped by unrequited love and a quest for redemption. His bravery, revealed in later books, cast his earlier cruelty in a tragic new light. The late Alan Rickman played Snape in all 8 of the Harry Potter films. With his icy voice, piercing gaze, and impeccable delivery, Rickman's Snape became one of the most iconic characters in the entire franchise. His performance is widely praised for bringing subtlety to a man shrouded in mystery until the very end. We also need to remember that the book version of Snape is actually a much nastier and meaner version of Alan Rickman's portrayal. I actually think Alan Rickman has made a lot of people forget just how terrible Snape is in the books. His treatment of Harry is what most remember, but he has some truly awful moments in how he treats Hermione, Neville, and other characters. There's no doubt this casting choice brings about numerous issues and challenges that will be difficult to overcome while keeping the show faithful to the original books. Casting Essiedu as Snape could introduce a number of unintended racial undertones due to his skin color. Undertones that simply weren't present in the original series. And to be clear, I'm talking specifically about skin color here. There were obviously other issues of racism in the series, and even more issues with prejudice tied to blood status. Now, in the books, so much of Snape's character development and his upbringing, it's intimately tied to his appearance and how he carries himself. But it has nothing to do with his race. Perhaps the most troublesome part here is that not only does this risk altering Snape's character, it could dramatically alter the character of those around him, namely the Marauders and even Harry Potter himself. Harry suspects Snape early on in the first book as the one attempting to steal the Philosopher's Stone, but again, it's nothing to do with his race. The Marauders demean and bully a young Snape in the later books. But again, it's not because of his skin color. What kinds of changes and adjustments will the showrunners need to make to the source material to ensure that viewers don't get the wrong idea about Snape and these other characters? The official FAQ even says the show is promised to be authentic to the original books, but that is not to say the show won't feature things we didn't see in the films. Showrunner Francesca Gardner was even concerned about sticking to the canonical ages of characters. In fact, Snape is one she mentioned, as he was only 31 in 1991, which should create for a very different vibe. Essiedu is 34 now and should be around 35 by the time they start filming, so he's certainly much closer to the age of Snape. It's interesting that Gardner seemed to be so concerned about getting the age right, but not as much on the physical appearance. Now, Essiedu as an actor is no doubt incredibly well qualified, but of all the characters to have a race swap in the Harry Potter series, Snape may be the most difficult one of all to actually pull off and to do it well and not alter the characters of so many around him. WB and Max are the ones who have billed this as a more accurate book representation from the get-go. They're the ones attempting to sell this to fans as a faithful adaptation. Quote, "The series will be a faithful adaptation of the beloved Harry Potter book series by author and executive producer J.K. Rowling, and will feature an exciting and talented cast to lead a new generation of fandom, full of the fantastic detail and much-loved characters Harry Potter fans have adored for over 25 years." Close quote. In light of these casting announcements, how do you feel they're doing at delivering a faithful adaptation? Are you going to give the series a chance, or are you still kind of in that cautious optimism phase? Let me know in the comments below. As always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.